Hello, fine folks, and welcome to Booghy Plays. Today, again, I'm not playing, I'm playing with words, doing an interview again. My guest today is a designer and a publisher at the same time. He's the lead designer and CEO of a company that could be called the kitchen sink company. I mean, they've been called this way because they throw the kitchen sink at their games, but they do very good games, and that is why I think it's going to be a very interesting talk. My guest today is Viktor Peter. Did I say it right?
Yes.
Welcome, Viktor.
Hi. Hello. Thank you for the opportunity and welcome everyone.
Your first name is Viktor or Peter?
It's Viktor.
Is Viktor, right?
Yes.
Because I know that Peter is also a name, a first name in Hungary.
Yeah, it's really confusing, and I have a second name as well, which is also Peter. So in Hungary, it's Peter, Viktor, Peter, because we use first names and last names in reverse. So it confuses the hell out of everybody, both abroad and here. So, yeah.
Well, it's okay. In Romania, we do also the same. The first name is the other way around. So when I started doing in English, and they told you no, first name is the other name that you usually use. It was, but you get used to it.
Oh, I didn't know that. It's like that in Romania.
Yeah.
I knew of Japan where it's the same, but not.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Good to know.
This interview has two parts. The first one, we go deeper into designing and your life, and the second part is a short questionnaire, and that comes from Marcel Proust. And I think that is going to take you a bit by surprise if you have not seen the interview with David Turci. You do not know what that part cuts off guard everyone. But
Oh, okay.
I think it's gonna be interesting. So
Okay.
let's start from the beginning. Where were you born, and where did you grow up?
Oh, so that's far from the beginning. Okay. So I was born in a city called Pécs in Hungary. It's a
Small,
smaller
yeah,
city.
yeah.
Well, basically every city here is small except for Budapest. I think like 100 to 200,000 people. And I moved to Budapest at 18
So
for university.
no, don't, no, 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 no,
Oh,
no, do
okay.
not, no, 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 don't,
Rushing ahead.
don't. So you're born in Pech. Pech is a pretty small. I mean, I've been a bit through Hungary. Last Christmas I visited Sopron.
Hmm.
They're all small, and they have their pretty little center and things like that.
Yeah.
How was it growing up in a small town like that? You're a child of the 90s, born in the
Yeah,
90s.
no, I was born in 85, so I'm turning 40 this year. It's pretty insane. Haven't fully internalized this fact yet, but it is what it is.
So you
Yeah,
were a
so
child of the 90s mainly.
yes, essentially. Yeah, the
How
90s.
how was it growing up in, let's say, Hungary had its communist era like Romania had. Okay, more. I think it was done in a more smart way than it was done in Romania. Uh,
Uh, yeah, if you can say that. I mean, it wasn't done in a particularly smart way anywhere, I don't think. But yeah, I guess in Hungary it was sort of already ending when I was born. Like it was the downward period, and I didn't really experience or remember much of it really. Uh, it ended in 1990 in Hungary, I believe, or 1989. So I was barely out of kindergarten by then.
yeah,
No,
yeah,
actually, I was in kindergarten still. So yeah.
so how was it to grow in the because I'm born in '83, so we are more or less there.
Oh, okay.
So we are both children of the '90s. We our conscient period was the '90s. How was growing up in a small town in Hungary? Did you do a lot? Did you have I don't know? Did you play more outside? Did you stay more inside? Did you find how was it that period that in that period?
Well, I actually wasn't really an outside person. Never really in my life. I've been mostly a little more introvert. I mean, I had a couple of close friends rather than, a huge network of friends, if you will. And yeah, I was exposed to video games quite early, actually way earlier than board games. I guess board games weren't really a thing back then, like not
Yeah.
not modern board games anyway. Uh, but I did play a lot of video games even when I was like 8 or 9. I remember playing Doom with my father when I was pretty small. Not sure how responsible parenting that is, but it was very fine at that time.
It was cool.
And yeah. I love. I mean, I remember getting Doom 2 on like I don't know 12 floppy disks and installing on my 486 computer at home. I don't know. These memories just sort of burned into my mind. And yeah, I actually loved growing up there. It was really nice and chill and peaceful. My father was in the police force, so at least when I was small, so he wasn't really around much, but he actually quit this because he wanted to be more around a little bit more when I was I think 6 or 7. And then he started his own company, which is a sort of like a security company that's active to this day, by the way. And yeah, I guess that sort of gave me the inspiration or the entrepreneurial spirit that actually resulted in Mindclash games. So I'm really grateful for him. Uh, Grateful to him for that.
And what was your mother's profession? What did she do?
My mother was an architect by trade, like that's what she learned. But she actually went on to more like a marketing and sales area for construction companies. So that's what she was doing.
Oh, okay. So you had the entrepreneurial spirit of your father and the marketing knowledge of your mother growing up, seeing these
I,
things.
I guess, yeah. I guess I inherited some very healthy work ethic from my parents. Yeah, they were really they've really been hardworking and diligent people. So that was a good example, I guess.
And do you have any siblings?
Yes, I have a sister.
And how was that relationship when you were? She's a bigger sister or
No,
younger?
she's 6 years younger.
Oh, okay. So there was not much of a relationship there between
Uh,
you two.
well, we had a really good relationship actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, if the fact that she's working at Mindclash Games right now is a proof for that, then
Yeah, yeah, no, but I was thinking not necessarily a bad or worse, not bad or worse relationship. I was thinking more because being having such a age gap usually means that when the smaller one starts really growing, the other one goes to university. So, did you spend a lot of time together? Did you, I don't know, played together? Have had this?
yeah, well, I guess yes, the age gap on paper is pretty significant, but I do remember us having like a really good bond through and through it. We didn't really play together, but we kind of shared a lot together, and yeah,
Okay.
there was a year or maybe 1.5 years when we actually had like a sort of an adopted uh, sister because one of my parents' close friends was like in a bit of a tough spot, and he had to move from the city because of work, and his daughter had to finish school when she was my classmate, so she was sort of living with us for that year, and that year was actually a really interesting, memorable year. She was also very close to me, and like the three of us were that's where we really bonded, like both with my sister and with this girl. And yeah, I also consider that year to be like a very
Um,
important part in shaping my personality. And
Well, yeah, it is having a probably it is. I don't know how it is growing up with the sister. I have a brother, so I know how it is to fight all the time um, over a lot of stuff because we are almost the same age, 2 years between us. Um, but we did play a lot together. We played the sports together. We played with guns and things like that, and we did not end up murderers, uh, being children of the 90s. Where again
We 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 played a lot of Heroes of Might and Magic 3 together.
on computer.
Oh
So
yeah, yeah.
so
Hot seat. Those were the days.
so you played a lot of video games through your
Yes, I did.
so that in a way made you a gamer from an early age. Um, did you play any board games in that period? Let's say up to high school.
Up to high school. I not really. No, it actually started in high school. With Settlers of Catan, like with like I guess a lot of others, and then I moved on to Agricola, and then I moved on to Lords of Waterdeep, and then to Caverna, and then to more heavy
Okay,
stuff.
okay. Let's not hurry.
Mhm.
But so you practically discovered modern board games in high school.
Yes,
This
you
was
could say that. Yeah.
that was the period.
Hmm.
Usually, and I've seen this pattern. Usually, if you discover things in high school, they go away a little bit in university because you get different interests, like I don't know,
Hmm.
girls, parties, and so on and so forth. Did what did first and foremost, what did you study in university?
I studied marketing, but I mean, it was not like marketing is my calling and I have to do this and it's my life's purpose. I should say I didn't really have a better idea going into the university. Yeah.
That's
So yes, it was more of the former that you mentioned, more about partying and just hanging out with people.
so as you say, you're an introvert and you were an introvert. Did university opened you up, made you more of an extrovert, or um,
That's an interesting question. I guess. Mm, Yes, a little bit, but not too much really. I was in like a student organization on the side, which organized the freshman camps. Those were actually quite way less wild freshman camps than you would imagine, thanks to us because we tried to contain the things that are going on there, and also the freshman ball and a lot of other activities around the university. And this was this was really a place for extroverts. 95% of this organization was like all this super extroverted, super uh, networking and motivated people. I mean, I was also motivated, but I was not really the kind of person who is hanging out in the office all day and just chatting with people, uh, trying to get ahead. It was I think it shaped me in a positive way. I'm glad that I
you did that? Yeah,
participated, and I was fairly successful, but mostly due to my sort of, I guess, diligence
organizational
and
skills.
discipline, and not because I knew that many people there. So I mean, I did, but it was not like I was one of the most popular ones or anything. But yeah, on the other side, it was a bit of a struggle, to try to
Yeah,
adapt to
yeah,
this culture every day, and it was sort of like against my basic personality.
yeah. Usually, this is very draining for introverts,
Yes, 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 absolutely.
energy-wise. So, as I was starting saying, did you play any modern board games during university, or it was less of a playing time? You had less of that.
Um, I think you're right. It was a little less than in high school, but in high school we got really hooked. I think 3, 4, 5 parties every weekend with something. Like again, first with the Settlers of Catan, but then with Agricola. And then same thing with my family. I kind of got my own family into playing board games as well. It was really a passion. And I also picked up Magic the Gathering back then, back in high school, like on very basic kitchen table level. But I still have those cards, and I'm glad I do because some of those cards, oof, they are really valuable now.
And you say you hooked your parents. What did you hook them with?
Agricola. We had an Agricola championship in the family, and everybody took it very seriously. Like we had the worst family fights were from Agricola mostly.
I see, and that's also bonding in the end.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Uh,
Yeah, we loved it. I mean, it's like, you know, I have memories of traveling together, and these stronger memories from various points of my life. But actually playing Agricola every weekend is like a very strong, like a core memory.
of the family, yeah. And board
I really
games,
really love Agricola to this day. I think it's a great game.
I am high with you on this one. In a way, it is board games manage to do that to yeah, bring people together and especially create memories for families,
Yeah,
which are
but
special.
yeah, to actually answer your question, which I haven't done yet, it actually continued in the university, but yeah, less intense. I did have some fellow geek friends, I should say, and they were into at that point I was more like into longer and more complex stuff like Twilight Imperium, and I still have the World of Warcraft board game up on my shelf. And World of Warcraft was really big back then, and I
Yeah.
was also playing that on the video as a video game. And we used to get together to play these whole day sessions of World of Warcraft board games, and it was really cool. Like it was less playing, but more playing more involved games and for longer times. So that's where I really got to love Twilight Imperium and just the space 4X genre in general.
I see. Um, uh, so in did you have a group then? Did you create a group in university, or did you have maybe some friends from high school that you play these games with, or
No, no, I actually completely started fresh. But I found some people with like-minded interests really quickly. So we had a group of like 6, 7 people who were just, whoever had the time just came through and play. I mean, it was always in my place. It was basically like a youth hostel at that time.
as it is when we are 20,
Yeah.
20 odd something. Let's say those things were happening in mid 2000s. Um,
Hmm.
oh,
Yeah.
s- uh, so from then on, really the board game phenomenon started to move a little bit more and more. Even back then, you're talking about high school, was because high school for you was, let's say, beginning of the 2000s. These games, Agricola, Catan, Twilight Imperium, were they games that were localized there, or they come through distribution in English or in some other? Um,
Um, I think Agricola happened to be localized. Yeah, yeah. But I mean, I didn't. I don't remember that much because I played. Uh, I mean, it didn't really matter if I play in English or Hungarian.
mm,
I think maybe it was only Agricola and Catan that were localized,
localized.
and then when it came to the more exotic stuff like World of Warcraft and Twilight Imperium, those were not. So I'm not even sure if Twilight Imperium is localized at all in Hungarian. Probably it isn't. It's a small market. It's not really worth localizing these games.
Well, as far as I know, it is bigger, far bigger than Romania, and as far as I know, most of the hotness gets usually localized. Most of the hot games usually get localized.
Yeah, maybe I'm wrong on Twilight Imperium being localized. I have to check, but yes, actually, some new Kickstarter stuff, especially recently, does get localized. There is a publisher that specializes in Kickstarters here. Uh, I don't know how it's worth it for them, but I guess.
Okay. So
Yeah, and there are basically, yeah, there are a lot of like three pretty big publishers that are competing here on this market, and it's growing. Yeah, I'm not sure how big it is in Romania. In Hungary it started very small, but it's been growing, I would say, slowly but steadily over the past few years.
it's far smaller here than it is in Hungary, believe it or not.
Hmm,
Although we have double the population,
interesting. Yeah.
it's far slower. It's
Why is that, you think?
uh, that's a discussion for another day. Now I have a after you have finished the university, what did you start working? What did you start doing?
So I spent a little time abroad in uh, Barcelona to learn the language, and to there was this student exchange programs sort
Yeah,
of thing,
yeah.
just to see the world a bit. And then I started working at a media company, Viacom,
Okay,
as like a media analyst.
I see.
Which falls into the same category as me going to marketing major, as in not having a better idea.
That can happen.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, it was fine. I still have actually a few friends from there, and one of my main, like today, the one of the main board game groups that I have today is from there actually.
I see. So, did you start to have? Did you start playing after university? Did you start playing regularly? Did you have a group and you started playing regularly? And
Yes, yes,
does that happen today also?
yes. So with those people, we were well, that's when board gaming started to creep back into my life, like seriously. And we had like several times per month, sometimes 2 times per week, when we just stayed in the office after hours and just played until midnight. The game we played back then was Mage Wars from Arcane Wonders. It's a completely under the radar game, but it's genius. I love it. It blends Magic the Gathering, I would say, or just the
Hmm.
typical LCG stuff with movement on the table, and everything. Everyone has like movement points, and there is spatiality to it. It's great.
And since then, you have been an avid board gamer, let's say, right?
Yeah, you could say that.
Uh,
Yeah. I mean, mm, my love for video games never actually went away. Like really, that was a recurring theme from my 8-year-old. So since I was 8 year old,
uh,
old to this
to
day.
this day. Okay.
Yeah,
Uh,
but board games were actually, yeah, catching up at that time.
so at some point, you thought, I would like to design a game. When did that idea start creeping into your head?
Mm, interestingly, it was not exactly like that. So we were in a ski camp at one point after university, with a friend of mine, Richard, and
Richard Daman.
yes,
Okay.
who eventually was one of the co-founders of Mindclash games, and we actually just got bored with the board games that we had there, and we started. Yeah, we had I've had a few drinks too, so we started, kind of mixing them up. Like I think we had well, what did we had this weird obscure dungeon crawler ish game called Drakon, because
Yeah,
it
yeah,
was a
I know it.
small box, and we started mixing like card effects into Drakon that we sort of came up with, and then after that point we had fun with it, and after that we just the idea kind of stuck to us that okay, it was fun to sort of mod the game. Let's see we can do with those cards, and then we just get rid of the Dracon part and then just started developing like a small card game on its own that was about card swindlers trying to trick someone, and then the theme actually we changed from card swindlers to magicians, like close-up magicians trying to do card tricks and sort of trying to outdo each other with cooler and cooler tricks. But this was like a card game and only card tricks. And then the movie The Prestige was in at that
At that
time.
time, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and that was like another core memory of mine. I was like blown away for 2 days by that movie. I don't know why, but it spoke to me in such a deep level that I like to this day my my standard program on a transatlantic flight is watching The Prestige at least one.
I see. Um, so
So yeah, so and then the theme sort of started evolving and became like not just close-up card magic and card tricks, but actual magic. And then the game started to evolve from a card game to actually a board game, and that's where we started to take it seriously and actually started working on Tricarion, because the more we thought about it, the more we loved the theme, and the more we were like into this design stuff, but we didn't really know what we were doing, right? We were just doing it for fun. It never really but like at least in the early days it never really occurred to us that this could be something we end up publishing at one day or something. But yeah, that's how it started, and it was like it took years really, and it was just done on the side uh after hours.
yeah, you are working on your job probably, and then doing this one.
Yeah, it was, it was something that just stuck with us, but sometimes we just took a few weeks breaks, and it was a slow process. But at the point where we got the inspiration from the Prestige and we moved from a card game to a board game, that's when things actually started speeding up, and that's when we actually started like slightly considering that this could be something that we might one day
I
publish.
see.
Or
Tricarion was the game that was your first game.
yes.
It was published in 2015, if I remember correctly, on
Yeah,
Kickstarter.
exactly.
Um,
10 years ago.
you, um, you, you took this route of kickstarting, but in an era that Kickstarter was not the thing that it is today or has been for the last 5 or 6 years.
That's very true. Yeah.
Um, how or how did you? Why did you think you would go to publish it on your own, and why didn't you go to a publisher? Did you, I don't know, before this, did you go to Essen? Did you go to certain conventions? Did you try to show the game off to certain publishers? How was the road of publishing to Carrion?
Uh, so Tricarion was getting quite heavy actually, pretty early on. So, when we moved to designing a board game, we just that's where I was playing with the really heavy stuff. So I just kept adding features and uh, yeah, we eventually had to cut down from those.
So
So yeah, but yes, we did go to, like, we had some smaller, not really conventions. It's more like a get together for aspiring designers where there are people from publishers as well, or people uh,
pub.
who have
Uh-huh.
successfully published something. I remember like the star guest of one of the first of these events was actually David Turci, who just published Redacted with Michu, uh, with Mihai Vince. So they were like the stars
Okay.
introduced on Skype. And Mihai is also working with Mindclash games right now. So yeah, but these events, I mean, like most of the games at these events were way lighter and way less not polished, but way less serious, I should say. And and the publishers who were there, or the more experienced people who were there, just couldn't really do anything with a game that is this heavy and looks this involved, I guess. And and we sort of realized pretty quickly that that for a no-name pair of designers, a very heavy game on the Hungarian market, it's not very promising to launch, right? And we had to look for another way, and that's actually when I heard about Kickstarter for the first time from one of my high school buddies. Uh, and it was like Kickstarter was pretty new back then. I think it was only around for maybe 3 to 4 years, something like that. It was really, really new, and I should say that was like the golden age of Kickstarter. So mm, I would say that the point where we really started taking this seriously and we really started believing in Tricarian's future was when we decided to self-publish it and just go the straight to English route and the Kickstarter crowdfunding route. And we started reading up on it and we started like working really hard on the game to the point where we actually both quit our jobs with Richard to focus full time on this. And this was a couple months before we went to Essen first and then to Kickstarter. So it was, yeah.
And in Essen, you had the
Uh,
game
uh, uh,
there.
uh, Sorry.
In Essen, you had the game there, and you showed it off.
Yes, yes, yes. In Essen 2014, we showed off the game. That was our. I think we had two prototypes, two pretty terrible looking prototypes, if I'm being honest. And and we had a 10 by 10 booth. No, no, it's not 10 by 10. No, it was just a 10 square meter booth. Nothing like the smallest you can get. And we just basically it was just us, like the three of us. Oh, sorry, I should have said earlier that at that point we knew that we need a better look for the game, which we couldn't design ourselves. So we got in touch with one of Richard's friends, Ville,
Yep. Who is
who
your
who
artist, art director right
yes,
now?
yeah, she is our main artist and art director to this day, and she actually volunteered to do
The art.
Tricarian's artwork also on the side of her day job. And yeah, basically that's how the three of us got together a game that plays decently and looks well. So that's what we took to Essen, and all we did was really just have two prototypes, nothing to sell, and we also had like
A
a
table to
booth that
demo it or something.
two tables, yeah. So we were running demos all weekend, but the I guess the big thing was that we had we really put our heart and soul into making the booth look like stand out. We borrowed a lot of like theater equipment, like curtains and frames and everything, and we just organized the whole booth to look like sort of like a Victorian stage. And we cosplayed as magicians, and we cosplayed as like a pretty assistant, and the whole thing was like really like wore top hats. Oh God, those top hats were so hot. We were sweating.
I can imagine.
But yeah,
I can imagine.
yeah, but it was a lot of fun, and like after the first day, people really started to notice us, and we started getting like serious cues to the game to try it,
Try
and
it, yeah.
and
I think
actually a lot of attention and a lot of email addresses.
I see.
Yep.
So that practically helped for the Kickstarter. Did s- I think one of the first this was one of the first heavy games that came out through Kickstarter. Um, it was a heavier game. Usually, I think the before you a successful one was Viticulture, if I remember correctly.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It was not it was a huge risk. How did you manage to draw enough attention to manage to make a successful first attempt?
Well, I think this essay was really what made the whole thing possible. If we hadn't been to Essen, I think the Kickstarter would have done, I don't know, like at most quarter of what it did. It was that's where people started to talk about us, and actually we were also noticed by by reviewers, not just ordinary gamers. It's I think contacting reviewers out of the blue uh, without actually showing them the game live or having some FaceTime with them was difficult even back then. So I think it just did a lot to help people taking us seriously, right? So mm, it was that, but we also really tried to communicate and post about it as much as possible. At that point, Jamie from Stonemeyer Games already had published a lot of articles about how to do Kickstarters properly, and that was basically my Bible at that time.
Yeah, yeah. I think it was a Bible for a lot of people
Yeah,
back then.
and a lot of things there are still true to this day, although the crowdfunding market did change a lot. Uh, but yeah, I think this all contributed, and it was also about, like, I'm not gonna say that it wasn't about also being at the right place at the right time. Really, I don't think that a game as developed and both visually and gameplay wise as Tricarion was at the time would do half as well on Kickstarter today.
Today. Yeah, yeah. So you consider yourself you had a bit of luck as far
Yes,
as you,
I mean, yes, absolutely. I don't think that you can do this sort of thing without luck.
without a luck. Yeah. So what do you went from a designer to a publisher.
Hmm.
Um, what do you consider yourself more? What do you enjoy doing more? What is what is more interesting to you?
That's a good question because the answer is not the same to those. Like, I still enjoy designing games more, but I consider myself to be a publisher, and that's something I've been, well, not struggling, but more like dealing with for the past few years now. And I think I now have a way forward because I think, uh, yeah, again, I'm a bit rushing ahead to today, but I guess I, the most value I can provide to to the brand and to Mindclash Games is, I think, by having product vision and having like an oversight on what we are publishing, what themes are we publishing, what sort of core gameplay do we have, and I do that still. Like,
Yeah.
that's one of the main things I do, actually. But I do a whole bunch of other things that I'm not particularly good at, right? So uh, so right now my plan is to let myself focus more on what I do really well, I think, and get people who are way smarter and way better than I am in the other side of the thing. So that's what I've been focusing on for, I would say, a year, and it's still an ongoing process, but I'm getting there.
So we will slide from designing to publishing because you are both of it, and it's you can answer both things. Um, there are I've been doing a lot of interviews with famous designers, which most of them are designers, and
Hmm.
because they are designers, they have designed a lot of things, and most of it go to trash or go away, and maybe use some of it later, and maybe you practically designed your first game and published your first game.
Yes.
Um, did you do you have anything that you worked on and you shelved, you put away?
Um, I mean, yeah, I do have an idea or two that I sort of either put away or just scrapped and reused parts of it
Parts
in,
of
in
it.
other game. Yeah.
Okay. So this is the thing which I think newer designers should understand, that they don't have to be very in love with their first idea. It's sometimes
Yes. Although I do want to add here that being a publisher, like being able to wear a publisher's hat while you're designing a game, it's actually very helpful to avoid designing for the drawer, right? It's it's really helpful to know what sells and what mechanisms you should avoid, or what mechanisms are overused, what mechanisms are popular. Obviously, some mechanisms that are popular now might not be anymore when you actually get to publishing that game you are working on. But having some market experience actually helps a lot in designing relevant games.
Um, do you design games for yourself or for your audience?
That's a great question. I mean, my I would never publish a game that I personally don't enjoy. That's my rule of thumb, and it might sound, I guess, I don't know, selfish or unreasonable from a business perspective, but it's really not, because that's that has been the principle that I've been following for years, like since the very beginning. And I guess the core audience that gathered around Mindclash games sort of resonates with my own tastes because of that. So if I sort of started to pivot heavily away from that and just keep strictly marketability and sellability in focus, I don't think that would appeal to our audience anymore. So and I guess our games would lose their soul at that point. So yeah, I think I could say that I'm designing for myself, but I'm also but through that I think I'm designing for our audience as well.
Um,
And I keep looking for that spark in all the games that we license and not design internally. That sort of inspires me too.
I see. Do you put on a developer hats from time to time? You do that, or do you think there are better people who can develop a game?
I do, but it's mostly when we are doing like the more broad strokes kind of development. For example, when we license a game, that's good, and I really like the mechanisms, but it's clear that we need to retheme it, right? For example, what happened with Ironwood recently. That's where I am heavily involved, because I do think that the theme is a very, very core part of every Mindflash game, and I would like to keep it that way. So having a not not just a half-as the implementation of a new theme, but a
Okay.
very well thought out and well implemented new theme. That's something I both enjoyed doing, and I think I'm also quite good at it. So that's where I really like to participate. Uh, Other than that, I think there are better developers than me when it comes to like ironing out the last details and mathing out the exact balance between the
Between.
game part.
Uh-huh.
I'm actually decent at that, because I just love Excel and I love spreadsheets and I love all that mathy stuff, but it's not something I can do for like weeks on end. I need to take some breaks and do something else,
I see.
which is sort of inevitable too. So yeah.
Um, I know the yeah. Preparing for this interview, I've read the things that you write there on your website, and you kind of have a mantra for Mind Clash games and the way do you in the way you publish games. Um, do you have your design philosophy follows that or does Mind Clash games follow your design philosophy? When it comes to theme, integrating theme, playing with what I mean, my question is, um, did you create Man Clash's Man Clash games mantra after your design philosophy?
Uh, yes, I would say yes. I mean, it's not just mine. I think that was something we shared with Richard when we started working on our very first games. That and I guess that's something that makes us stand out, right? That because Euro games, especially heavier Euro games, are not very like they tend to take theme less seriously, and I think there is a market for heavy thematic Euros, and the niche that we are trying to fill,
Yep.
really. So yeah, I would say that it's a very important pillar for us to have a proper thematic integration and an immersive and creative sort of environment in our games. That's why we are shying away, for example, from classic historic Euros, right? Because that's something Board and Dice just does better. So we shouldn't.
I see. Do you so after you did Tricarian, you did Anachrony,
Anachrony, yes.
which was the, let's say, the hit, the game that put Mindclash, really put Mindclash on the map
Yeah.
as a publisher, and the game that practically adding to Tricarion gave Mindclash the kitchen sink um, uh, motto, practically, because you do throw a lot of things into a game. Uh,
Yeah, I mean, I know that kitchen sink thing is being thrown around a lot these days, but I honestly think there are way worse offenders than us in that regard. So I am actually like, yes, we got like we reached the peak of that with perseverance, I would say, but since then I'm actually trying to tone this down,
I see.
and I'm trying to be very conscious about. Yes, definitely people are looking for deluxe stuff on Kickstarter, but if it's not like contributing to the functionality of the game or like have a really strong aesthetic flair that makes it really stand out, then we won't do it because I mean it's not just price, right? I think it's also uh, there needs to be a reasonable time frame for us to be able to publish games. We cannot have another Perseverance where we spend like 6 years on the entire saga with all the production questions and all the design and everything. It just isn't feasible.
Okay. That's true. When it comes, when people say kitchen sink, they usually it's not necessarily about production, but more about mechanisms. But don't get me wrong, I enjoy your kitchen sinks. I think I like heavy games, and I like heavy games which are thematic. And
Mhm.
here, I think, is where Mind Clash really shine. Um, can usually when you go this Kickstarter route, do you think um, game then add expansion afterwards, or you develop a bigger game that you cut and then cut and split it? Okay, we're gonna do this base, then we're gonna have these modules that we add as expansions later on.
Yeah, I so we usually have day one expansions for our Kickstarter games, and those are usually separate in retail, but part of the Kickstarter Deluxe Edition. It's just, I guess they have mostly more than one module, like and they are small stuff that you can mix and match to a solid core game and add if you want. I do like that a lot. I think modular small expansions are really cool, and but they are not like most of the time they're not designed and then cut from a game like in a AAA video game these days. It's more like we have a solid core to the game, and then we start thinking that okay, how could we improve this, and how could we add something that's not strictly necessary but could improve the gameplay experience after you've played it for a few times and got to know the game well enough. Uh, and then yeah, also expansions are a great way to sort of revitalize interest for a game,
Yep.
and but I don't think I'm saying any novel with that.
Yeah. Um, so when you how's the route you create usually? You develop the game and the game is ready when it goes on Kickstarter, or you still develop a little bit afterwards?
We've been trying and trying and trying to go into like the former where we are publishing an almost ready game to Kickstarter, and then publish and go to print shortly after, like in a few months at most. But we never actually managed to do that, and there were a lot of reasons for that. It's both sort of perfectionism and also our internal processes, which needed some refining over the past years. But we actually have pretty good internal processes right now, and I do believe that the times in which we can publish games will be shorter going forward. But overall, it was actually not as bad because there were really a lot of useful things coming in from Kickstarter in terms of feedback. For example, Voidfall, when we I mean, I'm really glad that we struck some really good chord with Voidfall when we went to Kickstarter, but it was very far from ready, right? It was I would say at 70% at best, and the feedback and enthusiasm we got from the Kickstarter and after the Kickstarter as well actually helped us a lot in making a far better game eventually, and that's also what's happening with Revenant. So I guess. While we are trying to shorten the development time after the Kickstarter, we do want to keep the opportunity for ourselves that to have some proper time and planned development time after the Kickstarter to actually implement the feedback that we are getting.
Okay. Um, so, can I ask you, in terms of playtesting, uh, how many times you playtest a game before you finally say print?
Well, it really depends on the game. Like there are the games can come become part of our pipeline in many ways, right? And they can be developed in-house from the get-go. They can be licensed almost in a final state. That never happened, but it will. I mean, we already have something that's going to follow that route. It's going to be interesting because it's going to have way less involvement from us than it usually does, and but usually it's mostly something in between. It's either a good idea that we it's most of the time it's a good idea that we license, but it's either not ready or not in a theme that we are interested in. So at that point we retheme it and then we give it at least, I would say, 6 to 9 months development time.
And
uh
how many
in
playtests in that period?
how many
Roughly.
playtests? Well,
Does it
I
reach
would say
hundreds?
in-house, we while there is intense development, it's more about not quantity but quality, right? We are doing various player counts, we are doing blind play tests, we are doing everything, but it's
Okay,
it's less, right? It's I would say 2 to 3 per week. So overall, I guess 50-ish.
50.
But then when the game is getting close to completion, we have an awesome Discord community who is actually very enthusiastic when it comes to playtesting games on TTS. So when the game is when we think the game is good enough and ready enough to release to these people, we just release it. We release like a feedback form with it where we can process data en masse, and then we make fine tuning balance changes based on that, and those can easily be in the hundreds. They,
Yep.
they were for Voidfall, and they also are in Revenant. Like we had tons and tons of feedback and playtest data from Revenant, and I'm really grateful for that. So if anyone is listening to this from the Revenant playtester team, thank you so much.
Okay. So, um, when it comes to replayability, these
Mhm.
days, games get played, I don't know, maybe 10 times, and then you go to the next one. When you develop a game, uh, what's your take on replayability? How do you
Mm.
get on with it?
Yes, I can see where you're coming from, that games are getting a lot fewer plays these days. But I do think that part of our part of the identity of our brand is that our games are, lasting designs. Uh, that you can find something new in even after like 10 plus plays. Like it can keep surprising you and it can keep giving you different experiences. And I do think that replayability is still very important, at least in our philosophy and our designs. I mean, in a way, I would like our games to be like if you are a heavy gamer, then if you have all the Mindclash games and nothing else, then you are all sort of set because you have a wide range of experiences and you have a wide range of themes and all the games that you have are actually replayable. Not infinitely, but very very much and for a long time.
Well, nothing is infinite now, is it?
Yeah, yeah,
Outside
yeah.
the universe.
Except Voidfall.
um, so, did you ever thought of going the classical route of distribution and not go through Kickstarter?
No, not just thought. We are doing it actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have a another line called Mindclash Play, and we are going straight to retail with those titles. It's an experiment for us because it's not something we are experienced in, but I kind of realized a few years ago that we can't put all our eggs in one basket with crowdfunding because it's not. I mean, crowdfunding is still the main source of our revenue, and uh, and it's still big, but it's not as big as it used to be. Like not just for us, but I think for everyone else, maybe except for Awaken Realms. Uh,
Okay.
but yeah, yeah, by and large, I think we just need more legs to stand on when it comes to financial and brand stability and brand recognition. So we started branching out.
Mhm.
But again, these games, uh, I still like the
Ironwood
philosophy.
is Ironwood is in that series, right?
Yes, so far we have two titles, Astra and Ironwood, and we have another one coming this year
Okay.
to be announced in the summer. And our goal is to publish one Mindclash Play title
Per
per
year.
year in Essen going forward. And yeah, I mean, some of these titles like Ironwood are not super far from what we've been doing in our with our core titles. I think Ironwood is just like the core titles is also very thematic and sort of a crunchy game with a quite deluxe production.
Yep. Yep.
But it's also like cheaper, smaller, and just easier to get into, and that's something I wanna keep. And this like Mindclash Play is something that gives us the room to experiment with stuff that you might not expect from us, right? As a like a core Mindclash fan. But again, even with these games, I try to stick to my philosophy that I would only like to publish games that I personally enjoy. So it's not like I'm gonna say okay to a Mindclash Play game that I personally hate, but I see business potential in it.
Um, how do you um, distill? How do you streamline a heavy game? Can you ever do that?
Mm, yes, yes. It's we distill and streamline it by by having people who are good at that. I mean, I am not particularly good at that. I mean, I I tend to be more experimental and try more things. Like the way I design games is like you said, I throw in the kitchen sink and everything and see how it feels. And when it becomes too much, I sit down with people who are good at trimming the fat from games, and we trim the fat from the games together.
I
Actually,
see.
David is pretty good at that. You wouldn't think, but he is, and he, among a lot of other people, is someone who I think I have a really good chemistry with when it comes to designing games, and I think we complement each other very well. So, yeah, I guess so to actually answer the question, I need someone to help me when it's my design or a design that's close to me to slim down and streamline down the game, but it has to happen. I don't think that I think streamlining and essentially, well, not necessarily streamlining is the best word, but I should say optimizing for the first play rather than the third, right? I think that's becoming more and more important these days when, as you said, games are getting less and less playtime individually.
I see. Do you like having these collaborations? Because Tricarian is done with Richard, Anachrony
Um,
is done with, I think, also with him and with David.
yes.
So, is it hard for you, or is it easy for you to work with with other people? And how does that process work? Do you each work individually, and then you get together, or you always get together and you try to feed off each other?
Uh, we I really like working this way. I think bouncing ideas off each other is very helpful, and it's very it contributes a lot to the success of the game. And I just when like I said, I'm an introvert, but when it comes to people who are close to me, I just really love working with them. And yeah, these are very smart and inspiring people. So I love these sessions really. And it's more about establishing the core of the game together, and then splitting up the work between us, doing some of it individually, and then sitting back down together, taking a look at each other's stuff, sort of mm, fitting it together and testing it, yeah, and iterating it, seeing what works. And more usually when we are developing a game like that, we are doing one playtest per week with sweeping changes from week to week. And then when it starts taking shape, we are involving more of the developers that are, better at streamlining the game. And yeah, at that point, I tend to be a little bit less involved, and yeah, and maybe start working on something else.
I see. Um, since Anachrony, you haven't come out with anything, right? As a designer, mainly as a publisher. Do you plan on having something new as a designer? Your name on a box?
Yes, absolutely. I'm working on a game right now, which is well, I'm so basically I've been working as a designer on most of our games in some
Yeah,
capacity.
yeah, as a
I mean,
developer, or yeah.
yeah, I worked on Cerebria, but Cerebria was I was one of the main designers
Oh
there.
yeah, forgot about that
Al-
one. Sorry for that.
Also on Perseverance. I think Perseverance
I have
is a
not played Perseverance, so I think I missed that one. That was your name was on it. Sorry.
yeah. Well, it has five names on it, and one of those names is mine. But yeah, I've worked a lot on that. So basically, almost all of these games, except maybe Ironwood and Astra, the play titles, I've been heavily involved in. Um, but right now, what I'm working on is I mean I'm even more involved in that. So it's a new challenge for me. It's very exciting and very inspiring. Yeah, I can't wait to share it because
So you talk a lot about inspiration, about being inspired. Um, I guess in order to do that, you have to have a team that helps you.
yes,
Um, Mindclash now has a team of, I don't know, 10 people,
yep,
around more or less. Um, it started with three, now it's 10. It's bigger.
hmm yes.
Um, uh, is it you have to do the design job, you have to be the lead designer, you have to be the CEO, you have to do all of these things in order to make you have to be the glue for everything. um, how do you manage to put all these hats on, and does it get tiring at some point?
Oh yeah, it gets very very tiring. No, really, like I said a few minutes ago, I I'm trying to juggle through. I feel like I'm trying to juggle a little bit too many things at once, and I should focus on what I do best. And the way I expanded the team is just getting people on board who complement me and the other people who were the original people in the team, and uh, help in things that like we have developers in house. We have an operations person who is responsible mostly for localization and manufacturing. We have artists, we have graphic designers. Obviously, those things I can't even draw like a stick figure. So
Yeah, I get you there. Um,
yeah,
s- uh, I want to touch one more thing, which is art.
yep.
Um, I'm a photographer. I'm a film director and a photographer, and
Oh,
I
okay.
am a big fan of Hungarian artists. And I don't know if you have seen our review of Septima. We touched a lot on the artwork there. Um, I really think, what's the relationship you have with your art director, and how much input do you have there?
On the art,
Yeah,
well, Vilo is very competent when it comes to our direction and just art in general. She's a really good artist on her own, but well, she's been doing this with me for 10 years. So I think she's also like seen it all when it comes to board game art. And I really like that to this day she's thinking of board game art as sort of like an out of the box thing where there is I don't want to sound like I don't know. There's this conventional board game art, where it's more functional
yep,
than than
yep, yep, yep,
than than
exactly.
actually a piece of art. But we are trying to take it a little bit further than that. Like we are really trying to make art uh, help immerse people into our games. And I think Rilo is really good at finding art styles and finding art themes that resonate well with that philosophy. And yeah, I think I personally don't. I used to be more involved and more sort of I should say opinionated when it comes
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
to art, but I realized that this is not necessarily my area of expertise. So I'm giving a lot more room to Ville and also to the graphic designers that are working for us, because they trusting their judgment usually pays off, right? So
Do designers have an input on how it looks, or on do they have something to say? I don't know, maybe if they like it, or if they don't, if there's something that they don't like on the art, do they have a say there, or it's
you mean when we license a design with
yeah,
uh,
or
that and then we retheme it completely from the ground up?
in that situation, or in a situation where I don't know, there is one of your games where I don't know, there's something that
Yeah,
or
well,
or,
well,
or
in
David or
so in theory, the theme is at the discretion of the publisher. It's in the contract, yada yada. But in reality, we actually listen to their input, and if we receive like it never happened, so I can't speak from experience here. But if we were to receive like a huge pushback on the theme idea that we had, then we would at least sit down for another round and consider it that there is might be something that we are not seeing. Uh, but usually it hasn't really been an issue. When it came to retheme, most designers were actually pretty enthusiastic. So, for example, Ironwood used to have a pirates versus British theme, but that's like a very classic historic
yeah.
theme, and might not be everyone's cup of tea. So we came up with this whole Ironwood world, and yeah, we did quite a bit of world building there, even for the size of that game. And yeah, they were really happy and enthusiastic about our ideas and where Ironwood ended up thematically. So but yeah, this process, when when the broad strokes of the design and the broad strokes of the theme are being made, these are very like most of the team is involved there. We are listening to everyone's opinions, and this is sort of like a back and forth between the gameplay and the theme. So when we say gameplay and theme is evolving together, it's not just a marketing slogan or something. It really works like that. Especially with designs that are made in-house from the get-go, like
Okay.
Septima, for example.
Okay. Um, One more thing I would like to touch on is when it comes to randomness.
Yes.
Um, how do you approach randomness to your games and the games that you publish?
Um, I don't like it. I really don't like. I mean, I I'm a big fan of player agency and giving players interesting choices and giving them the feeling of them being in control. So even if we have like again, sometimes this comes down to theme, right? It's for example in Perseverance when you're attacked by dinosaurs that cannot be like fully deterministic or something. In Voidfall we could like explain it that okay, it's not like a skirmish in space, but rather uh, a smaller like an army of 10,000 ships attacked by an army of 50,000 ships, so there is like no question who wins. So that's why combat in Voidfall is deterministic, but sometimes the theme just doesn't allow you to have complete determinism, even though I think most of the time determinism or player agency actually trumps luck and randomness, especially in heavy euros. So I try to if it's random, then I try to introduce mechanisms where you can just control or dampen the randomness, or maybe have like a opportunity cost to make the random actually deterministic somehow. So yeah, to mitigate it as much as possible.
Okay, okay. Yeah. I try to touch a bit on all of your expertise when it comes to publishing games. The be having so many personalities, because you have so many personalities in Mindclash games. I try to touch on all of that. Hopefully, it helped a bit someone who watched this. Now, I do have a few more questions before we get to our second part, which will be that one will be very fast. Do you have sorry? What is fun to you when it comes to games? Of course.
What is fun to me?
Yeah.
Uh, oh, good question. I like games that are. Uh, I like the part of games where you have the build up, right? Where you have where you're starting from scratch and you have to figure out how to sort of optimize and build up your engine. And when it comes to like running your engine and min max it, that part I don't like that much. That's why I'm a huge fan of roguelike games, for example, because roguelike games skip that part, right? When you are done with the build up, you just reset and build up again in a different way, and that's huge about roguelikes. I like that a lot. I also like exploration. Uh, yeah, I guess those two things mostly. Those are a lot of fun to me. Uh, I'm not a huge fan of cooperative games for some reason, but I mean there are some that I like, but again, those are usually the ones that involve build up that you can do on your own.
Yeah. Usually, co-op games suffer from the that how is it called? For a player who usually has the takes out the ropes, and the alpha gamer. Yeah, that was what I was
Yeah,
talking.
yeah,
The alpha gamer
yeah. Very
situation.
few. Very few co-op play games can get around that actually.
Yeah. Do you have? Sorry, could you talk us briefly about a day in your life? How does your day usually go by?
Yeah, sure. So it's mostly I wake up at like 7. I take my kid to kindergarten. Which is going to be school soon because he's turning 6. I and then depending on which day it is, I either work from home or work from the office. Uh, usually on Wednesdays, like today, I'm just working from home. Uh, I in the mornings I tend to do like more administrative stuff, so like financial planning or answering emails or just the
Doing interviews and stuff.
do yeah, this is an exception. Normally I would do an interview. I'm not a morning person, so I tend to get the more mm, the less inspiring stuff out of the way. Not talking about this interview, but
Yeah, I got it. I got it. I got it.
most days I tend to just get through the boring stuff in the morning, and then in the afternoon I tend to have most of the time play sessions or just design sessions on my own. Uh, and
Okay.
then I maybe in the evenings I just spend time with my family. I used to work a lot more than I do now. I try to set boundaries these days a little bit better because I need to I I need my I need to be present in my son's life, and I that's something I don't want to give up on. So I tend to finish work at 7 the latest. That still 9 to 10 hours sometimes, but it's fine because after 7 we just get to hang out with my family and maybe go for a run in the evening. But yeah, and then in the evening I just most of the time I either play something with my wife or just hit up a video game for an hour or two.
Okay. Thank you. Um, Now, I do. Can you tell us what is your most played game outside the ones that you play for Mindclash, of course?
My most played game, phew, like historically, like mm, recently I've been playing a lot of Revive because I don't know, something is just so cool about that game, and it's really easy to pick up. Uh, but if we look at like all time, uh, I wish there was like a Steam library for this where I can just check my playtime. Uh, I think, I mean, we played so much Agricola back in the day that I still think it beats out pretty much everything else. But lately, in my modern board gaming days, I think it's the Gaia project. It's Gaia project that
Project.
beats it
Yeah.
everything else. Yeah. Uh,
I'm in
that's
the Age of Innovation camp. I like it the best out of the of all.
oh, okay.
um,
Oh, and through the ages. I'm not sure if the application counts
uh,
because that's like
yeah,
the
yeah,
carbon copy of the board game.
yeah.
But if it does, then it's through the ages, and then there is a huge gap, and then there's everything else.
To the ages because of the app, because it does it does all the cube pushing for you practically.
Yes.
Takes
Yeah,
out
exactly.
all
It
that
cuts out all the
fieldiness.
all the weird
Yeah, yeah,
fiddly parts.
yeah.
Oh, and I shouldn't forget about Android Netrunner. I mean, I don't get the chance to play Android Netrunner as much anymore as I would like, but I firmly believe that that's the best tabletop game ever made.
Ghosts
And
of the Magic days, right?
it's way better than Magic. It's not
I
not
see.
not even comparable.
And do you have a favorite game?
Favorite board game?
Yes.
Uh, yes, it's Android Netrunner.
Okay. Okay.
It's pretty pretty sure it is. I mean, I really like I really like Dune Imperium as well, especially lately, and how easy it is to just sit down and play. I mean, I used to take these 5 to 10 board games to every trip that we made, even for a weekend, and then we used to play those games a lot more, and now it's just sitting in the car not being played, and because of that I'm just taking Dune Imperium these days because I know that that's easy enough to get
To
played,
get played, yeah.
and it will get played, but yeah, it's not like it's my favorite. I guess it's just something I'm playing more these days because of that.
And do you have a favorite designer outside
Mm,
yourself, of course?
I'm not my own favorite designer, no. I think Vlada is a really genius designer, and I I wish he designed more
More, yeah.
these days.
I agree with you. He's coming up with a co-op that I don't know which company comes out with. Um, but I am there with you. He is my favorite of all time. He has something special, and
Yes, he does. He really thinks outside of the box, and it's just beautiful when it comes together.
and this I have one more question which I want to ask you, which is, do you want to add something that I might not have asked you?
Um, no, I actually think you've done a really great and thorough job asking everything that I could possibly talk about. I mean, I could talk for days, but sure, yeah, nothing that comes into mind now.
Okay, and now we do the second part of the interview. This is an interview which is drawn from Marcel Proust. It was taken from. It was taken by a French host, which is Bernard Pivot. Then it was taken by James Lipton in Inside Actor Studio. From there I got it, and it starts like that. What is your favorite word?
My favorite word.
Word, exactly. It can mean Hungarian also.
Uh, I haven't I haven't thought about that. Hmm. I'm not allowed to think a lot of it. Lot, right? Right.
No, no, you
That's the
have to go
point.
rather fast. Yeah, one that comes out really fast.
Okay, my favorite food is popcorn.
Popcorn. What is your least favorite word?
My least favorite word, suicide.
Um, what turns you on? Creatively, emotionally, spiritually?
Uh, Creatively,
E- e-
uh, challenge and stepping out of my comfort zone. Uh,
yeah, cool.
Emotionally, empathy, and spiritually, I'm not a spiritual person, so I I
Now
can't really
I
answer
gave you
that.
more options. What turns you off?
What turns me off?
Yeah.
Injustice and self-absorbed bragging.
Okay. What is your favorite drug?
My favorite drug,
Yes. It can be anything. It can be work. It can be don't think.
uh, Path of Exile. It's a video game.
Okay. What is your favorite? And this is a big one for a lot of them. What is your
Uh,
favorite curse word?
My favorite curse word.
Yeah. It can be in Hungarian.
Uh, it's probably Pichaba. It's
I see. If so,
yeah. Let's not translate that.
please, if you have Hungarian followers, please translate that to us. And what sound or noise do you love?
Uh, what sound or noise? Hmm. Phew. Good question. I guess. Hmm. I like to. I like to listen to these alpha waves, sort of background music, but not really music that just helps you relax your brain and focus better. I'm not sure if that counts,
It
but
does.
I
It
like
does. It
that.
does. What sound or noise do you hate?
My dog aggressively barking to let her in through the door.
What profession outside the one you already do or did would you like to attempt?
Woodworking.
What profession you would not like to attempt?
Uh, Being a kindergarten teacher.
Okay.
Those are easy.
if and this is my last question with, and it's a big if heaven exists, what would you expect God to say to you when you arrive at the pearly gates?
Mm, good job. You shouldn't have stressed about it so much.
uh, Viktor, thank you very much for taking the time to do this interview with me today. Hope you had fun. Hope you felt
Yes.
comfortable here in our virtual gaming room with on our virtual comfortable chairs. Um,
Yeah, thank you so much. I had a lot of fun.
I will kindly ask you. I'll do the outro. I will kindly ask you to not close the so we could close it afterwards.
Absolutely. Okay.
Thank
Thank you
you.
so much.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening. Bye bye.
Uh, again, hope you enjoyed this one. I tried to put it there in about an hour and 10 minutes to pick up the brain of a designer, a publisher, a developer, and so on. A guy who does a lot of things, and I think it can be very interesting to whoever tries to do all of these things at once. Hopefully, it was interesting. If you like what you see, please like, comment, subscribe. As we say, smash that subscribe button. And yeah, if you like it, tell other people what happens here. Share. Sharing is caring, as they say. I will thank again Viktor for doing this. I'll thank you who came and watched live. I'll thank you who will come and watch after the fact. Until next time, I'll say what it says there. Play a lot, play lewd, have fun, and bye bye, fine folks, wherever in the world you are.